All right, welcome everyone. We got another weekly breakdown for the week of January 23 to the 29th, the last week of January in the Forex markets. Next week, we're going to be going into February and we're going to have NFP on Friday, which will be a fun week next week. But this week is going to be also very exciting as well. So this week, I'm really only focusing on two pairs. I will have a few others in the background, these 2 pound pairs, as well as crypto XRP on there. But the majority of the focus, like 80% of my focus and energy is going to be going towards pretty much gold specifically, but also US 30 a little bit. So let's take a look at the dollar first. Actually, I was going to do it last, but we'll go first. And we'll go back to the daily. And let me position this properly. So looking at this chart, what I'm seeing is we've been on a pretty steady pace to the upside with the dollar. Obviously, we have some corrections, just natural market movement. But overall, we've been on a fairly strong push to the upside since the beginning of 2021. And really since the beginning of November too. We pushed up and then we kind of went sideways for a minute and we dipped down and we snapped right back up. And I think we're going to continue up towards these highs of essentially 98, but this high exactly is 97.8. So that's exactly, that's the area that I'm looking for gold or dollar index to continue. Right, we had this push up, we pulled back, and if you look left, it lines up perfectly with that. So I actually just drew this line. I was zoomed in and I marked the low, and then I zoomed out to get the bigger picture, and it lines up pretty well with here and here actually. Let's see if it goes back further. Not as much, so we'll stay current, right? So we flipped this resistance of 94.6 from a resistance to a support now, and that's a pretty healthy pullback. So yeah, again, I'm looking for something similar to down here, this push right here. See how we dipped down and then we pulled up and we actually stalled right here for a few days and pushed up again, stalled again, and then we have that another move to the upside towards these highs. We didn't tap it exactly, but that's what I'm expecting to happen here. Obviously, these highs are going to be hit first, which is 97 essentially. I'll mark this up. So 97, 96.9, whatever you want to say. Obviously, that's going to be the first level of resistance that the dollar index will encounter. But if it breaks this, then I definitely think we're going to move up to that 97. I'm hoping we can see something pretty steady like this, right? A nice push up. That would be brilliant because we are now going to switch over to gold. So obviously, as you guys probably know, if dollar index is going up, that would theoretically mean gold would go down, and that's exactly what I'm looking for this week. So the dollar index is just a confluence. Okay, if the dollar index goes down, gold has the ability to go down. Same thing with going up. I've personally seen it with my own eyes where NFP came out, right? One of the most volatile news pieces that can come out. It came out positive for the US dollar. So it was super good news for the US dollar, which theoretically would bring gold down to the floor. And gold shot up like literally 800 pips after that news, on that Friday. Then the rest of the week, the following week, it was just flying to the upside. So it's not dependent, but it is definitely a confluence when they are both, opposite of each other. With that being said, we're going to dive right into the weekly time frame. And the analysis this week or the next 2 weeks is going to be more higher time frame because we're going to be swinging this short, and the low time frame isn't as necessary unless we're entering. But obviously, once we enter, then we really don't do much besides watch and manage the position. So we'll zoom in here and then we'll zoom back out. And I'm going to delete this. So what I was really expecting is, before, like a couple of weeks ago, I've been wanting pretty much right here. I've been wanting price to push up into this level at 1843, right, to fill this imbalance right here, and possibly up to the high of this candle as well for a wick. And that's exactly what this week did. So it pushed up all the way to 1847, and I actually had a sell limit. As you guys know, I sent in the chat, I put a sell limit at 1846. That sell limit hit. I literally didn't do anything. I was sitting in front of my computer. It was New York open, and I had the sell limit, and I just watched the price go up and hit it, and then I watched it come back down. So if you guys place that order right now, I think you're 120 pips in profit. And I think at one point it went to like almost 200 pips profit. But I just wanted to secure that entry in case it does tip over without coming back up. And we'll get into that coming back up statement in just a minute. But looking at the week, we can see huge wick, right? Lots of rejection. The market clearly wants to move down from this area. So we're just going to, we obviously have one entry already, but we're going to look at this coming week for a new opportunity to enter, possibly even higher than 1846. And then we're going to sit on our hands and let the market do the work. So let's go to the daily. As you can see, this level is marked up right there pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and move this up to the high of this week because that's what's most important to me right now. I also have this a little bit of imbalance on this daily. So this candle did not come up and meet this level. And it's essentially 1855. So that's exactly where I'm putting that line, just at 1855. It's a good psychological level. Yeah, I'll zoom in first, then I'm going to zoom out to show you the big picture. So looking at these past few days, actually, we're going to go back to the last one, the last time I dumped, okay? So we got the push, we have that high, so high number 1. We had the next day after the push, number 2, number 3. The week closed right here, okay? This is the Friday. 3 candles. New week starts Monday, Tuesday, we get an entry. Okay, then we just wait, pulls back. This is the rest of the week, right? So market opened, it spiked up, got the entry, and it pretty much went sideways the rest of the week, but it did close way down here. Okay, it did close down here, and then the following week is when it dumped. So it was a 2-week cycle, really. We had, or a 3-week if you want to look at it. You had 1 week up, 1 week sideways, 1 week down. At the moment, obviously the structure is different, but we do have the 1, 2, 3. We have the push up, then we have the 2 days stalling. Now, the key differences here, see how this push is high right here, and then the second day is lower. The third day is the same height. So there was never a liquidity grab above the high of the push yet. That already happened here. This is the high of the push, right? And now this spiked, how many pips? It spiked 47 pips above the high of the push already. With that being said, I do think we will push even higher than this one, but I think it'll be something similar to this, right? You see how this again, this is the open, this is Monday. So this is Monday candle. It did make that new high, but it didn't do much. And Tuesday, we have the huge spike that spiked 60 pips above it. And if we look how many pips this spike was above the initial push, that's about 86 pips. right? So I'm not saying this is going to be exact, but I'm just trying to show you this is 86 pips above, right? 1850. And again, I'm not saying like the Tuesday morning, the price is going to spike up 80 pips and then it's going to dump. But what I am getting at is I think we do have a little bit more room to play and possibly find another entry. So in a perfect world, what I would like to see is either Monday, so today's candle, come up really high and, during London, probably hit like, these highs. And then during New York, or at the beginning of New York, spike up and then drop and then close somewhere below this level right here. And then the following day, similar thing, but probably not as high of a spike. And then we slowly start to drizzle down. So the game plan for an entry is going to be simply, I'm not entering anything unless it comes back above 1846, that original entry. Once and if, which hopefully it will, it comes back above 1846 between this week's high and 1855. I'm looking for around specifically New York session open, a spike up on the low time frame, and then it start to turn over, and that's exactly when I'll enter. So again, very specifically, I'm entering not only at the price of, hopefully 1850-ish, but the timing, right? The timing is what's very important. And that timing is going to be just before the New York session starts, or as it's starting, really. If we're talking in Eastern time frame, it opens at 8 a.m. and I'm planning to get up at about 7, maybe even 6:30. I might set a sell limit up here if it just goes ham at London, but I highly, highly doubt that'll happen because as of right now, we're at 1834. To push up here, that's almost 200 pips, which gold can move extremely easily. Obviously, this is that push. So I'm going to show you that entry just to show you guys. Again, I had a limit, so I didn't actually press, excuse me, I didn't actually press the button. I got the hiccups. I'm gonna go like this. So this is the start of New York, and this is noon. So these hours are pretty much where I'll enter. But yeah, again, I had a sell limit, so I didn't actually press the button. But as you can see, during New York Open, price started shooting up, and then that's when I hit my sell limit. And if I didn't have a sell limit, I would have pressed the button right here anyway. Right here on the 5-minute, as it wicked, started coming back down, I would have pressed it. And a little bit of time passed. We had 1, 2, 3 highs, and then it just dumped. And from then on, it moved even more downwards. Okay, this is London session. It actually spiked into this area right here and shot down. Let me delete these. Here's New York again. So 8 o'clock, this huge blue candle is 8 o'clock. Say we pushed up, right? Now it's 9 o'clock. As soon as it starts stalling, I didn't enter here, but just as an example, I'm gonna draw these lines again, actually. So typically between 8 and 12 is when I'll enter. Really between 8 and 11, if I'm being a little bit more accurate. Open, New York open. We push up, 5-minute time frame, right? We get to a significant area, right? In this case, the area is going to be larger. This is very tight, but we push up, we stall. You can even enter like right here after this doji, because what you're looking for is a wick. So push up, comes back down. Obviously, at one point, this candle was pushing down like that. I would have entered right there. If, again, this is just an example of showing you kind of like what I'm looking for, but I would have entered right here. And obviously, we just chop sideways for like an hour or so, and then it moves down. But yeah, those are just two examples of what I'm going to be looking for, and I'll show it in the chat too when the time comes. I'll definitely tell you guys when I'm entering. Sorry, I had to clean something. So yeah, I think what we're going to do is hopefully tap this high out and get another entry, probably going to be larger risk. And then we'll just wait. Going to this daily and zooming out. Just pausing for a minute and looking at this. Okay, to me, I don't know if it's just me, I'm sure it's not, but I have like, when I see charts zoomed out like this, specifically more on the 4-hour and the daily, I can look at it and just get an intuitive feeling of the next movement just based off of the flow of it. So what we could see is a huge dump, and we had a multiple week, like 2.5 month corrective structure here. And now we're getting to the point of tipping over again. And it could be huge. We could hit 1722, depending on how powerful the dollar index becomes. We could hit 1677 again. The reason why I think it's possible that we will hit this is because if you look at when we made the level right here, we essentially made it over here, but we're going to start right here. We hit the level. We came so close to it right here. We tapped it again, but we have yet to tap under it. We have yet to tap liquidity under that level. And it's possible that now, if we're going to go look at the grand scheme of things, if gold is going to make a new all-time high, it will likely tap this out one more time. And it won't just come to 1680, it'll go to like 1670, just below it, and then it'll explode. Obviously that's speculation, and I probably would not be holding that long, but I will show you my first targets right here. 1782, that's going to be the first target. That is going to be around 600 pips. Okay, so target one, 650 pips. All right, target two, obviously the next low, that's 1,000 pips. Target three, first before I get to target, obviously target three is right here. I'm just going to drop. And then I'll talk about partials. 650 pips. I'm expecting the first like 2 or 3 days that price actually dumps to hit that. And that would be when I take out the initial partials. And I'll probably close like 30% of the position. Now, we might stall, let's just speculate here. Let's say we push down to that first target of 1780, and then we start stalling for a few days. I'm going to give price the chance to break it. And after a few days, unless it just plows right through it, obviously that's a different story. But if we get to that level and it starts stalling, then I'm going to give it the chance to break it. And if it can't, then I'll probably close a little bit more and just move the stop loss. But if it does break it, then I'm not touching anything until it gets down to 1750, which is, 1,000 pips. I would probably close like 80% of the remaining trade, maybe like 85 or 90% of the remaining position. And then I'll just let that little bit hang in there and put the stop. Honestly, I'll probably just put the stop loss right at the entry and just see if it comes down further or if it comes back up. But that's getting a little bit too far ahead. But yeah, I just wanted to zoom out right here and show you the vision of what I'm seeing. I think it's just about time that price tips over. And one thing to note, I'm looking at these two tip overs. I'm kind of expecting a third one. Note, it took about a week of accumulation, and then the drop only took a few days. So we got this 1, 2, 3 candles. It took 3 days, and that was 800 pips right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Okay, 1,300 pips. But look how long it accumulated here. Let's say right here, starting at this wick, 10 trading days. That was 2 weeks. That was a huge move though. This is 1,400 pips. This is 950 pips, and this one stalled for 5 days. So I don't think we're going to be stalling for like 2 weeks or something crazy like that because the move isn't as large. But I am expecting the first few days this week on gold to be somewhat sideways, but more of like an accumulation phase of the sell that we're preparing for. So every time price spikes up into this, even if it takes 3 days and it doesn't start moving until Thursday, even if it spikes up here, every time it spikes up here, I'm going to be adding entries because every day that it comes up here and it closes down here it's like more and more confirmations that its price is actually going to drop. That's pretty much it. Does anyone have questions with gold before I go to U30? It's pretty straightforward. We're just waiting for price to come up to 1850 and then we're going to sell it. No questions with gold. Everyone understands that. And yeah, I'll update you guys during the week as price progresses. Pretty much, around New York session open is the key time in here. So just plan for that if you're planning on entering this with me. On the side note of that, we have U30. Now this one is kind of like not a backup, but I'm only entering this if the opportunity is perfect. I have no need to enter this. I guess I have no need to enter anything if you think about it, but I'm not placing, I guess a better way of saying it is, I'm not placing all of my chips on US30. I got burned once because it just moves crazy and I don't want to experience that again. But if that large move is going to happen, we might see the same thing on here. And the amount of pips US30 moves is insane. So I'm obviously going to be looking for a buys. You guys might already have the vibe of what I'm going for. You can see every time price spikes, dips down like that, it just shoots right back up, right? That's what I'm going for here. I mean, it's not that like in depth of a breakdown. I'll get into the levels and the entries in a minute, but I just want to show you the vision first. Let's say we get an entry at this bottom line, which again, I'll get into in a second. That is almost 3,000 pips if we go back up to the top. That's crazy. That's a lot of pips. And it'd probably be in the same time frame, like take, I don't know, maybe 10 trading days. I mean, look at this move. 1, 2, 3, 4. Even that first move, 1,700 pips in 4 days. It would say we start this move on this bottom of the spike right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's when it stopped right there. 5 pips entry at the bottom, or sorry, 5 days. 1,700. That's huge. I mean, I could just go on and on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2,000 pips, right? I could just do that over and over again. But the point I'm trying to make is it's very fast, and it is very possible that we're going to see this sort of, I don't even know if I want to call it a pattern, but this sort of flow again. It is very possible. And who knows, maybe we're going to see an all-time high. Maybe we're going to come up to 36,000 where these wicks are right here. And then we're going to tip over and make new lows, and then gold is going to explode, right? All that. I mean, that will come to that. That's 2,000 pips either way. Even if we only come up here, that's still crazy. So diving down all the way to the 1 hour. As far as the entry goes, this is how I'm planning to do it, and no exceptions. So obviously we have this low right here marked. So the first thing is waiting for this low to be hit. I will not enter that trade if that low is not hit. I mean, that is way too much sell pressure for it to not do that. Plus, it's super manipulative, this market. So, yeah, I'm waiting at least to come down here. And then I did some further investigation, right? So that's why I pulled this level back so I could see where it is compared to all of this. We have these lows right here. I would really like to see these lows tapped out barely, not this one, not this low. Okay, just these. Because I think if we're going to make another major swing up like that, we're going to make a higher low compared to this. But it'll take, look, all this liquidity right here. So this liquidity was taken out when it made this low. And I think we're going to take this low out and grab this liquidity right here. So my plan of entry is going to be around 33,800 or less. Okay, I will not enter this if it is above 33,800. The stop loss is going to be 100 points or 100 pips. So that would mean the entry right here, right? That is such a tight looking stop loss, but it's really only thing you can do with this. And the risk to reward is going to be crazy. I mean, the take profit's really going to be 30. Okay, that's what I want to see. Just come right back up here to 36,000. 1 to 20 risk to reward. You know, if you risk 5% of your account, I mean, you're making crazy gains. Even if you risk 1% of your account, you know, depending on what you've been used to. Zoom back out. So yeah, that's pretty much all I'm focusing on this week. Do we have more people? We got some more people. That's cool. Gold, that sell-off, major, this buy, major, again, only buying at or under this line. I will not enter the trade if it doesn't go under that line, or to that line, I should say. That's pretty much it. I mean, I'm going to go into these pairs, but yeah, that's all I'm going to be focusing on. I don't care about entering anything else, including these markets I'm going to break down for you. These are more or less, I'm just monitoring them. With the cryptos I'm monitoring, the pound pairs, we might get an entry. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Bitcoin and Ethereum just because I don't see a trade coming. Again, it's just more of a monitoring and what I'm expecting. Hold on. So the past weeks, Bitcoin has been freaking tanking, and we have been a part of that. Thankfully, we've been able to capture a decent amount of money from Bitcoin. As people buy the dips, we just keep shorting, and they keep paying us essentially. But what I'm really looking for is pretty much honest. There's not a lot of information right now as far as like what's Bitcoin going to do next, because it's been tanking for so long, and it's retraced 50% really since the high, almost. And what I'm expecting at some point is a pullback to this high right here, which is pretty much exactly where we shorted from last week. We literally shorted, we shorted right here. We shorted at the top of this one, and then we shorted again right here. And the target was 40K, and that's pretty much where I closed out my trades. Unfortunately, it was closed because price just tanked another 500 pips. But it's good to acknowledge that and just be appreciated of that. But going forward, yeah, there's not much to it here. I'm just waiting for more candles to print out to give us more information on what it's going to do next. Because as of right now, I can't tell you what it'll do next. Maybe a little bit of retracement and then a push down further. I would really like to see price pretty much just push down to these lows, and from these lows, we might get some scalps, because even from this low right here to this level, that is 400 pips. And that's looking at this. I know, so we're on the daily. So these are fast trades, but I mean, I'm gonna do something right here. So we came down, came up, came down, get back up, came down, get back up, spike down lower, came up higher, spike down lower, come back here, and exploded. Oh crap, I didn't save it. All right, I'm not gonna do that again, but look how many pips. I mean, that's 1,000, 1,200 pips up. And then the next day, 700 pips down. The next day, 600 pips up. The next 2 days, 700 pips down. You guys get what I'm saying, right? So Bitcoin can, even when Bitcoin's consolidating, we can still take major trades in it. But as of right now, it's just uncertain, because like it could do, this is really my next plan of action here is I want to see Bitcoin hit 40K again, but I want to buy it below this low right here. So I'm going to set an alert right now. And if Bitcoin taps below this low right here, then I'm going to be looking for buys. I'm going to be sharing that with you guys, similar to like right here. See how the price pushed down and we made these lows, and then it came all the way back up. Very similar, even like right here, right? This doesn't look like a huge move, but that is 250 pips. And even, right here, I know this is a little different, but just capture one of these lows to the high, that's hundreds of pips. So that's really all I'm going to be waiting for, is just seeing if Bitcoin comes down here and maybe buying it back up to this 40,000 region, which is going to be 600 pips. That's a huge trade. So keep eyes on that, but not super concerned with it at the moment. And I'm not even going to go into great detail with Ethereum at all, because it's pretty much the same thing. Pound yen, we had some fantastic sells. This previous week right here was a little bit weird structure. Took some shorts here. It dumped, took me out, right? Closed some, took me out. And sure, it came up here again. We were expecting price to come up and take this high out, but it didn't. And it just pushed down. So this past week, when price made this wick right before the London session, we placed some entries. That pushed down. I closed some right before the market closed. That was a good couple hundred pips. I did a light position here, light risk, because yeah, I was expecting price to come up here. So the profits weren't as big, but we were still in it. Going forward, I'm expecting price to leak down into the 153 region, which is the full target we had from up here to begin with. So I'm not really looking to do much besides wait and see what happens when price gets to 153. I think we have dumped too far to have a heavy pullback to get another good entry up at the top. I do think it's possible we pull back, of course, but for me personally to enter, I just the way I trade, like I don't really enter in the middle of this. It's either I hit it up here, or in this instance right here, or I don't. But in the instance that we do come all the way back up here, I will definitely look to enter. If we hit 156 or higher, I will look to place another entry and share that with you guys. If we don't, then I won't. And yeah, the target is 153. I am seeing this continuing upwards at some point. I feel like this mover in is the corrective structure, and we're going to get a continuation. I drew the fib on there. As you can see, that's 152.7. So this is a 30 pip range right here. So essentially going forward with pound yen, I'm just waiting for price to get into this area right here, and then I will be looking to take a short. But it just all depends. But yeah, like I said, I'm just kind of watching right now, and that is what I'm watching for, because that's only 100 pips, 120 pips. It could just push down there. I'm not saying it will, but I mean, it could easily just leak into here slowly, just dribble on down, and then it'll probably take a few days to set up, and then we'll buy and we'll swing it up. We'll swing it upside like 700 pips. We'll take it to 160. It's been there before. If I go to the weekly, like these aren't all-time highs at all. I mean, look at this. It's been at, holy moly, it's been at almost 200. So we're not, we're not facing all-time highs whatsoever. Zooming out though on the weekly, that looks pretty gnarly. I mean, if we just keep pushing down here, then we might just be, we might push down and then we'd be pulling back up here and shorting it. But I don't think that'll happen. I think we're going to continue this. We're at least going to take this high out. And looking left, we have all this liquidity up here, especially, oh, this is right at 160. So that'd be perfect. If we can come down to 153 and then we can spike or shoot up here on the weekly to 160, that would be brilliant. So we'll see what happens. Not this week, but probably next week we'll get a buy entry as long as that actually comes into fruition. Pretty much what the move I'm looking for is this, but instead of coming down here and grabbing liquidity and pushing up, I want to see it actually continue. So we pushed up, we've came back down. I think we're gonna, honestly, this week, it wouldn't surprise me if we kind of stay sideways. And then the next week, we have a nice wick to the downside and we enter down here and then it closes bullish. And then the next week or two after that, we push up. I know I'm forecasting a lot, but we're in the weekly right now and I'm just taking it a few candles at a time. But yeah, I don't want to dive too much into that because I'm not actively going to be focusing on that. The pound Aussie, I think we're finally going to dump. And I think we're going to come down to these lows right here, or even like this low down here. This is the original target when back on this week. So it's possible we're still going to make that move, but just starting from way up here, which would be awesome. Looking at the daily, we've had really nice structure on the daily. We've came up here, we pulled back, made the low, barely tapped out that high, but we did. We came back, we made a lower low, and we pulled back again. So really, this could dump at any moment. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it just drains from pretty much this area onwards. But in the instance that we can come up to this daily high, I will be interested in entering. How many pips is this? That's 50 pips. So yeah, that's not bad. Over the course of the next few days, if the pound Aussie does creep up here, I will definitely be looking and telling you guys to short. I don't think we will hit this high again. So this high will be the stop loss. I think if we're going to short, we're not going to like come up here and do all this crap again. I think we're just going to go sideways, make a wick, and move down. Similar to like right here. See how we just made a wick, we start moving down. Even right here, right, we had some wicks, push down. Even, okay, this is a better example, but it's flipped. We pushed down, we came back up to this high. This one is this high, right? Or sorry, this low right here is pretty much what I'm marking right here. The exact same concept. Actually, look, we have to push into the level, then we have to reverse. So 1, 2, 3. Mark that high. We spiked above that third high, and then we moved. Same thing. This is literally the same thing right here. 1, 2, 3. I think we're going to spike above that third high, and then we're going to drain. So I haven't even analyzed this pair all weekend. Like that was my full analysis right now. So I'm bringing that over to this because now I'm actually going to be paying a lot of attention to this pair. Diving into the 4-hour, yeah, nothing changes, man. That's going to be the game plan for pound Aussie. If it can spike to 1.895, I will be looking to take the entry. If it doesn't spike up there, I won't. But there's a good chance it will. Very similar to what's going on right here. This is right. So you see that low. See how we spiked above it? Right there. Pushed, obviously. Oh, this was massive. This was like 2 weeks of consolidation. This was horrible. This was like, yeah, I remember. This was bad, but I don't think we're going to get that right here. I think the market's moving right now. And yeah, we're going to come up here, get that spike down. I'm going to set an alert. So that's the game plan for pound Aussie. Shorts coming in, and that's 480 pips. Pretty decent. A decent trade. Does anyone have questions with pound Aussie or anything?
Could you just switch back to the weekly chart for me on GA?
This is the weekly chart.
Just zoom out a bit. I wanted to see that area that you were talking about, that price was ranging.
Oh, right here. During December, it stalled for 2 weeks right here. On the 4-hour, this is what it was right here. Because I remember I was looking to short, and then I was looking to buy, and it was just super choppy, and then I just stopped. I literally closed the pair. And then when it got up here, I did short because that was the whole plan, was shorting from the fib. So once it got up here and started rejecting, I shorted, and that was the target. And obviously that got completely smoked. And then everyone who shorted right here got smoked. And now I think we're actually going to be moving towards the real entry before it actually moves. And that's based off of the daily and the weekly, how that weekly setting up. See how the past 2 weeks, like I know wicks, they mean rejection, but they also mean price was trying to go in that direction. Does that make sense? Like down here, huge wick, you could see it as rejection, which it is really. Second week, huge wick. Third week explodes in the direction of the wick. That's because these 2 weeks, price was pretty much almost like a feint in a fight. You know, when you throw a punch just to get a reaction, the market was feinting a lot of people into buying, and then it came back down, feinted them again, came back down, And then it started dropping right here. Look at this wick. So maybe people started shorting, and then they exploded the price. So I think something similar is going to go on here. And this we have the 2 wicks to the upside. And then on the candle that actually pushes to the upside, there's a big wick, right? And it goes almost to the high of this previous candle. I think that's similar of what's going to go on here. I think this week will come up and create a wick, and we'll get the sell entry, and then hopefully it closes lower than this low right here. And then we might have to swing that for another week to get the full target. But even, I mean, even that would be 200 pips. That's still a good trade right there. But that's it, guys. I'm going to, as long as no one else has questions, I'm going to end this and send the pictures. And let's have a good week.